Hello friend, I want to tell you about the Renault Scenic car. Engine selection, just right. This befits a car from a decade ago. The Scenic III still had a relatively rich range of engines, with something for everyone. Petrol units can be divided into turbocharged and naturally aspirated. Of the former, the 1.4 TCE with 130 HP was on offer from the beginning of production. In 2012, a smaller 1.2 TCE with 115 HP appeared. The differences between them are quite significant. The 1.4 is an engine with indirect injection, while the 1.2 TCE has direct petrol injection. The range of naturally aspirated engines includes a 1.6 16 volts with 110 horsepower and a 2.0 16 volts with 140 horsepower. Both have indirect injection. The 2-liter has more power but loses some steam due to the combination with a continuously variable automatic (CVT). The diesel range was only slightly more modest. Initially, the base was the well-known 1.5 DCI, 106 HP, and the larger 1.9 DCI with 130 HP and 2.0 DCI with 150 hydrogen phosphide with a 6-speed automatic and 160 hydrogen phosphide with a 6-speed manual. Over time, a new 1.6 DCI engine was introduced, replacing the 1.9. It has the same power of 130 HP. From 2013, two variants of the 1.5 DCI joined the offer, 85 HP and 106 HP. The latter was combined with a double-clutch automatic. What goes wrong in Scenic III engines? The most problematic engine is the 1.2 TCE, which not only has a weak timing, the chain needs to be checked regularly, but also a tendency to use engine oil and even seize. It is also prone to leaks. With the poor performance it offers, it makes no sense. The 1.4 TCE is also susceptible to certain faults, but to a much lesser extent. You certainly don't have to worry about the turbocharger or timing system, but there are engines that tend to consume excessive amounts of oil. When buying a 1.4 TCE, it is worth finding out how often the oil was changed. If every 10–15,000 kilometers, that is very good. If less often, as the authorized service center recommended, then I do not recommend such a car. Importantly, high mileage can be quite a good sign. Either the engine has no problems, or they have already been solved. You should check whether it is working properly and there are no errors. It is worth checking the oil on a cold engine. If it is too low, it is best to look for another car because it indicates neglect. Another problem is the damaged gaskets under the head, so you have to watch the engine temperature closely and react immediately if it gets too high. Occasionally, the block cracked in such situations. Quote, naturally aspirated engines are durable and usually trouble-free, especially the 1.6 16 volts, which is also very cheap to maintain, although a comprehensive replacement of the timing belt. In the case of the 2-liter variant, there are two problems. The timing chain, which should be inspected after approx. 200,000 kilometers, or even better, replaced as a preventive measure, because when stretched, it disrupts the operation of the unit. The second issue is weak piston rings, which in early versions generated excessive oil consumption. Therefore, when deciding on this engine, it is worth choosing a year as young as possible. The 1.6 engine is better suited to work with autogas, but the 2-liter one does not generate major problems either. Diesel engines will of course always be a risk with potentially higher repair costs, starting with the 1.9 DCI, which is like a lottery ticket. There are cars with high mileage. Among the cars for sale with the highest mileage, the 1.9 DCI dominates. What's more, a large part of them are in great condition. Quote, it is worth noting, however, that the 130 horsepower version in 2009 was significantly improved, and the risk of bearing seizure is much lower. With proper oil service, it is almost unheard of. On the other hand, when buying a used car, you never know much about its history. Not only about the oil service, but even about repairs, what and how they were done. So you can stumble upon a mine. Slightly better, but also more technically advanced, is its successor, 1.6 DCI, successor in the range. Its problems are a stretching timing chain and problems in the electronics area. With starting, serious failures rarely occur unless the service does not notice a loose timing chain. The technical successor of the 1.9, the 2.0 DCI, gives the best performance, is the most enjoyable to drive and is the least problematic. It is also very durable, but we hear more and more often about bearing seizure. So there is a certain risk here, but less than in the case of the 1.9 or 1.5. And finally, the 1.5 DCI with the risk of bearing seizure, but a small one if properly serviced. It doesn't give very good performance, but fuel consumption is the lowest, and repair costs are the lowest among all diesels. It's not a motor to be afraid of, but it's best to buy it with awareness. After purchase, I recommend at least checking the bearings in a specialized workshop, and if necessary, replacing them preventatively. Quote, which engine to choose? Basically, the choice is quite simple if you decide on the type of fuel. When it comes to petrol engines, the automatic is only available in 2.0, so there is no choice. When it comes to manual, the 1.6 is the perfect engine for cheap travel, preferably on LPG. And the 1.4 TCE unit offers the best performance among petrol engines and also runs on LPG. Compared to the above, the 1.2 TCE engine makes no sense in every respect. It is too weak, burns too much, does not accept LPG, and is the most problematic. The 1.6 is much better compared to it. The choice of diesel seems obvious. For everyday driving, the well-known and improved 1.5 DCI will be ideal, preferably after 2013 in the 106 horsepower version. The 2-liter diesel is a proposal for people using the car on long routes. The 1.6 DCI unit is somewhere in between and is a safer option than the 1.9 DCI. If you had to choose from all the engines, in my opinion, the two petrol engines win. The 1.4 TCE for those who want a manual, and the 2.0 16 volts for those looking for an automatic. Although in terms of automatic transmission, the 2.0 DCI is an even better choice. Both petrol engines run on LPG, so they will be at least as cheap to run as the 1.5 DCI diesel. However, the least demanding drivers, looking for maximum savings with minimum risk, should only take the 1.6 16 volts with LPG installation. What goes wrong in Renault Scenic III? Quote, the car is not excessively troublesome and faults occur sporadically, usually concerning electrics and equipment. Examples include failures of central displays, radio, or electric windows. In facelifted versions, you have to get used to slow multimedia operation. This type has it. The model's problem is the relatively low quality of the interior assembly, which can be noisy, especially on potholed roads. The materials are also not very durable. The door seals are noisy. Fortunately, corrosion problems in this car are completely unknown. It's not worth fighting with a soft and relatively wobbly suspension. That's just how it is. The system is the simplest possible combination of McPherson struts in the front and a torsion beam in the rear. The Scenic has an electric parking brake, which can be quite expensive to service. Steering gear failures do occur, specifically the electric power steering. Gearboxes. Gearboxes are not particularly prone to failures, and there are 3 types. The classic automatic, with which the 2-liter diesel was combined, is a sure thing. CVT, when treated properly, also rewards with considerable durability. On the other hand, although there are no major reservations about the EDC double-clutch transmission, higher repair costs should be expected here. Is it worth buying Renault Scenic III? More than worth it, because it is one of the best offers on the market in its class. For significantly less money, we buy a car that is not worse than the popular VW Touran or the unattractive Toyota Verso, in which no diesel is as recommendable as Renault's diesel units and the petrol engines lack power. I think the 3rd-generation Renault Scenic has something you can't recognize without a closer encounter with it. Maybe you're looking for a minivan, and you're looking at other models because you're afraid of the French, but you don't really realize that you're looking for a Scenic. Thanks for listening to me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and rate my video. If you know of any problems with this car that I haven't mentioned, be sure to write about them in the comments.